I'm doing wonderful, 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 Bishop. And I just want to say welcome and hello to each and every last one of you all. I want to welcome all of our listeners out there, our listening audience, talking to the Rejoice 904, Facebook, YouTube, all of you all that are actually out there. Definitely want to say hello. And also my colleagues that are on here. And I'm excited. I'm excited because just as Bishop just stated, the young lady that's going to be joining us today is one of our with the Be Your Own Bank movement. So I'm excited to be here today with each and every last one of you all.
All right, all right. And Mr. Rogers, how are you today? Is he still in Minnesota? Where is he? Mr. Rogers, are you there?
No, I just think you might have a delay or a lag, but he's here with us.
Okay, well, I see he's on here with us, and we're happy to have him with us today. And I've been traveling this weekend myself, and I tell you, it just all came down on me yesterday. I said, "Ooh, I need to go home." And I came back home and then kind of relaxed a little bit. But I'm thankful that the God blessed me to watch my baby girl uh, uh, through her commencement services there from Miles College there in Birmingham, Alabama. And it was a great time. Me and my two sisters and my two daughters and my niece, a couple of my nieces came up from Jacksonville, nieces who grew up in the house with her. And we just had a great time. My grandmother came up and it was just wonderful. We had a great time in Birmingham and Montgomery, Alabama. I'm surprised that the way people behave in a number of higher educational institutions and the level that people operate on is seriously bothering me right now. And I'm just saying we need to spend some more time encouraging each other to operate on a higher level. Mr. Rogers, I see you're back. How are you today?
I'm absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for having us, Bishop, as you continually lead and guide and direct us in this information, ensuring that our listening audience, rejoice904.com, our Facebook family, Instagram, and everyone who's connected to us. But I definitely want to make sure that you like and share this information because, once again, I know that this is going to be one of those very pivotal moments to make sure that we engage individuals because we have to be adamant about making sure that we share this information with fervor, with vigilance, and even as you were beginning to allude to your story, Bishop, there's been a whole shift in how we govern ourselves in the public arena on a level of professionalism that, that should be able to, represent who we are.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And so we need to represent ourselves. But here's what I want us to talk about this evening is that we look at Nehemiah, who makes a transition from servant to general. He was he was a servant to Xerxes, who had taken him and several of the young folk from Jerusalem into captivity. And they'd been there 70 years and he had served faithfully. And because he served faithfully in that position, he had impacted the heart of Xerxes, who was the king. And Xerxes noticed that he was sad in his spirit and suggested to him there was something wrong. And he shared with him that he was concerned about the condition of his homeland and he wanted permission and money to go back and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And I want us to, as we read this passage, I want you to pay close attention to the people that he had to motivate to get this job done because it was a much bigger job than he himself could do alone. And so we want to look at that, and then we want to look into chapter 5 just a little bit because we want to look at chapter 4 and verse 6, I believe, is the passage for the day. And then as we begin the conversation, maybe we'll look into chapter 5 and we'll see what people are borrowing money and the stuff getting repossessed and that kind of thing. And so let's Miss Dowd, you have that scripture for us.
Absolutely, Bishop. I do. I definitely have the scripture. And so we're talking about Nehemiah 4 and 6. And so what that's saying is, so we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart.
And the old version that Mr. Rogers and I like to use, the old version, say that people had a mind to work. And in order for Nehemiah to get this major task accomplished, the people had to have the right mindset to get the job done, because there were those who were coming and they were doing a lot of talking. They were trying to discourage the people from working. And it's necessary for when you begin to do something that people haven't seen done before, when you begin to do some things that will impact people lives that are comfortable with the circumstances, and they are I call them poverty pimps, and they're living good off of people's sadness and sorrow. And so when you begin to change that, that it impacts the way people's ability to be comfortable. And so I think what we do will impact some folk who are comfortable with taking advantage of people and using other people's money for free. And from time to time, you'll run across some people who will have some negative things to say. So don't be surprised as you begin to join this movement that everybody's not excited about you becoming wealthy. Everybody's not excited about you leaving the crab pot, because the other crabs will reach up and try to pull you back down into the pot with their words and with their conversation. And so we want to look at Nehemiah today and just kind of examine him and his attitude as he deals with this situation. Miss Dara?
Did you call them poverty pimps, Bishop?
Well, that's what they are. They're making money out of people's sadness and people's hard times. And that's exactly what they are. Who is that? That's Benita right there. And so, yeah. And so, the mindset of the people that we're trying to accomplish it with has to be the right mindset, and has to be a mindset for change and for transition. Nehemiah had the mindset to make transition, because he was living in good. He was living up there in the king's palace. Oh, he didn't have to worry about going out in the sun and sweating and going on. But now he's got a transition to motivating people to do sort of like Mr. Rogers. 29 years he's sitting in the king's palace down there at Morgan Stanley, and now he's got to motivate us to do what we need to do. And he got to get his hands dirty a little bit.
The amazing part about this story, though, Bishop, you're absolutely true, because Nehemiah had a great government job. He was good, right? He was living in opulence. But what I appreciate about Nehemiah is that he no longer needed permission to do what was in his heart. Sometimes we see things that need to be done, but we're always waiting for someone to do something for us. And Nehemiah took the initiative, and I love, even the King James Version said, the people had a mind to work. And, when you have a vision, the vision will give you a mind to work, right? So you're going to do everything necessary in your capabilities to make sure that thing gets accomplished. And also too, what I appreciate about Nehemiah, he came from humble beginnings. He didn't come, he was a layman, so he was not indoctrinated with titles and felt like it was his title that gave him the freedom to do what he was called to do. But it was something on the inside of him that pushed him forward. And he was in captivity, but he did not allow that to be an excuse for him to be able to accomplish something that was far beyond his control. And the church was reestablished, but the wall was down. The wall was down. In other words, the thing that would protect people from things that outwardly. So that was his purpose, and that was where his energy was. And he realized two things that I know when I think about Nehemiah, particularly in this passage. He had enough resources to provide for himself, but when God is giving you a vision that is bigger than you, then it's always going to take God to be able to bring it to pass. And so as long as we keep focused and understand that, then the vision was always inclusive of people that he did not have a personal relationship with. He had an affinity to because of where he had come from, but he did not stop that or allow that to stop him from being in position, and even his disposition caused him to have a conversation. So sometimes we got to draw a line in the concrete and say, you know what? I'm the one's going to be able to change and make this transition. I'm not going to wait on somebody else to give me permission to do what I know needs to be done. And that's what I really appreciate about Nehemiah, particularly in this instance. And his responsibility was simple: to identify people, not create anybody, but identify people that had the same work ethic, the same spirit, and the same purpose. And then that's where the energy becomes effective, and then the work gets accomplished.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm just sitting here thinking about the fact that you say bigger job than he could have done alone. You know, obviously God is the foundation of this movement, and you know, you're looking at what we set out to do and what's in our heart. And I mean, you just hit it on the head as far as when you're talking about, you know, having a heart and having a mind to work and willing to do what's required. And so, and Bishop just kind of went back in reference to your Morgan Stanley days. I think back to my days, and you know, you just really think about, you know, right, we could be living these lives where we could just be sitting back, you know, and we would be the ones in profit. We would be the ones living a beautiful life, but at the same time, what about everybody else? And so here we are embarking upon a new journey, and you know, we have that heartbeat and that mind to press forward and to work. And so that's why, you know, we have the ladies on the call today. We do, you know, this month we actually introduced 3 new educators, right? We introduced 3 educators, 3 BYOB cash out educators. And I'm actually excited about that because, you know, we're gonna be able to focus in on exactly what it is and be able to serve more people. You know, the movement has grown. We're actually worldwide now, but yet we're having global impact and having that global footprint, but we want to make sure that, you know, we're reaching the world, right? 2 million families, financial blinders being removed, financially educated, impacted, people being properly educated, especially, you know, we've been talking about over the past few weeks, even today, it's happening today where social media is your financial advisor. And we're here to make sure our voice is louder than that, because it's way too much out there. It's way too important for us to be financially educated. And so to be able to have the ladies join us and be here with us, especially the 2 that are able to be here with us today, is just phenomenal. I'm excited. And
Who are these ladies? We have one on with us right now. Benita, are you there?
Bonita Brantley, this is our HFX, BYOB Cash Out HFX Simplified. She is our trading diva. Miss Brantley, Bonita Brantley, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Hi.
Benita, introduce yourself.
Yes, no problem. My name is Bonita Brantley, also known as the Trading Diva HFX Sniper. I am very proud to be here, speaking with everyone here, and also being with the BYOB has helped me a lot when it comes to trading, life, personal business, the whole 9 yards. So I am just happy that I'm here to now give back along with the other educators and everyone else who's on with the BYOB.
That is so wonderful. We're glad to have you with us, and we're looking forward to getting to know you. And part of that is how we share on this show. We just want to welcome you to the show. And Ms. Dyer was telling me earlier today that you can help me with the mindset of the what do you call them? The young folk. They got a name for them. My daughter just graduated from college, and yeah,
Millennials.
millennials. Yeah, that's what you call them. And thank you, Alma Bear. I appreciate that. And uh, I was just talking to my daughter. She graduated Saturday, and we were driving back from Birmingham. And I said, okay, what are you going to do now with this? Now that you got this degree, I said, I know you say you're trying to get into law school, and that's great, and we'll help you with that. But what are you going to do in the meantime? And she says, I said, you thought about trying to get a job or something? I'm gonna get my marijuana grower's license, and we're gonna utilize some of that property that we have, and I'm gonna figure out how to do that. So the millennials, they don't think the way Mr. Rogers and Miss Dyer, myself, when we were finishing school, we were thinking about getting a job, or making ourselves better for the job that we were on. And the mindset of the kids now, or the young people now, young adults now, is I don't want to work for anybody. And so how do we grab hold of that spirit and help them see this opportunity?
I think it all depends on what is it that they really want to do. Because sometimes I have a friend, and
they want to be rich. That's what they want.
They want to be rich, but you can't be rich overnight. What you want to be rich doing. So everybody want to be an entrepreneur, want to be in business.
Yeah.
And I think great, but what is it that you want to do? Because whatever it is that you want to do, you're going to have to get some coaching, some mentorship, and some experience in it some kind of way. You can't just jump into something and then, wish for the best. So I would say for a lot of people, a lot of millennials, I would say, who are thinking about entrepreneurship, depending on what type of business they want to go into and what is it that they want to do to make the money, they have to find the resources to get into whatever it is that may be. They have to learn what that type of field that they want to go into. They have to find mentorship. They have to see, is that something they really want to do, or does it just look nice right now? Because, somebody else might be doing it, so then they might want to do it. So I think it's best to assist in areas that we can, to make them see, okay, if this is something you want to do, well, it qualifies this amount of work. It qualifies you knowing this, and this is what needs to be done in order for you to go ahead and be successful.
Well, the mindset to work means a mindset to be trained. And when we think about Nehemiah, we recognize that folk were saying to Nehemiah, man, you're gonna leave that good position. You second in line to the king. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do what we do out here. And he's talking about going back down here and doing some construction work in Jerusalem. And I'm sure some people gave him a lot of criticism. But as Mr. Rogers said earlier, he had the kind of mindset where he took the resources that were available to him and was willing to share them for a greater cause or for a greater good. And that was rebuilding Jerusalem. And that's a rare mindset in this day and time. People who have resources want to use those resources to get more resources for themselves and not thinking about the greater good. And so you stepped out here and you're giving your resources to train people. That's really what you're doing. You're giving your resources to train you, your time, your energy, your thought patterns, to train folk and to encourage people to help themselves.
That's correct. And I'm doing what was given to me. If it wasn't for the leadership that I had with the BYOB, I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you. I wouldn't be able to do the same thing that they're doing. So why not, just go ahead and continue the process? Why not just repeat what they're doing and be able to help others as well?
Yeah. Did you take motivation from Miss Dyer? She's got the skill, motivation, make you, where are you at? What you doing? What you waiting on? Yeah.
I took it from all of them. It had to be a little bit from everybody.
Is that motivation, Bishop? Or was that?
Well, that was a motivation you used on me. So I don't know what kind of techniques those were. Maybe that's something you learned in Afghanistan somewhere. I don't know. But it makes us move around, made me get up off my stuff and do what I needed to do. And so it worked. So and so those are those guerrilla tactics. So hopefully she won't have to use those. And so we're just happy to have you with us, Benita. And we understand you bring a lot of value to the table. We're just so happy to have you with us.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
And so when we look at this passage, we see that Sanballat shows up. Sanballat makes himself an adversary to Nehemiah. And you're just amazing how somebody who wants to do a great thing like he wants to do, that there will be somebody who take an adversarial position. But there's always going to be somebody who's going to be a naysayer as it relates to you doing this greater good. Are you ready? Are you ready for Are you ready for the Sanballats to come out? Some of these folk were not ready for the Sanballat.
I was born ready.
Yes. You why she on the platform? Come on. Come on, train Diva. Yes.
And said it with attitude, huh? A little deeperish attitude, huh?
You see why she on the platform.
I was born ready. That's and I always say I was born to be prosperous, and I believe that with all my heart. And so you have to be ready. Now notice that these people are not ready for him, and some folk began to give up on the dream, and others, like the ready ones, half the people stood with their guns or their swords or their weapons during the day while others worked, because Sanballat was against them. And so we have to be geared up and armored up for this battle, because there's always going to be somebody who's not going to be, everybody's not going to encourage you to do this job. And so we have to be ready. If everybody's not going to encourage you to step out of poverty, to change the poverty mindset. And because it's been my experience that as my bank account increased, my thinking didn't match up with my bank account. And so I had to change my thinking, because a broke man doesn't think the same way a man who has 6 figures in the bank. A broke man, when they talks about capital gains, you don't even know what you're talking about. But the man with the money in the bank, when he hears the stuff about capital gains, his mindset change. The way you vote will change. Your political parties will change as your money change. And as those things around you began to evolve and began to change, those people who were with you with your broke man's mindset will begin to criticize you because you no longer think like them. They will accuse you of acting funny when you're trying to preserve your money.
And then they get upset.
What I can say about that is I'm already in training for that, because I'm already surrounded by like-minded people. So the ones who will always say something, no matter what, you can't please everybody. They can keep talking all they want. But first, I like to say that I keep my circle small, and the people who's in my circle are all like-minded, business-minded people, know about money, know how to make money. I also want to say that, God is first in everything that I do, no matter what. So as long as I'm focused on doing what he wants me to do, as long as I'm focused on doing, in path of everything else that I'm supposed to do, everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, I'm just putting it out there. It just happens, and it don't feel good. I mean, we can handle it, but it doesn't feel good. Ms. Dyer can tell you about that. Ms. Rogers.
Yeah. Well,
definitely, I can you know, we talked about my aunt. What was it, last week? We talked about her. My aunt, that's like my second mom. You know, she literally. I mean, I think it was maybe a month or two ago. You know, because when this journey first began, you know, it was no platform. It was none of this. It was no radio broadcast. It was none of that. And she's like, well, I think, you know, and I actually, when I walked off my job, I got this phone call. So have you updated your resume? And I'm just like, no, ma'am. You know, you have to be respectful because it's, you know, your second mom. No, ma'am. And then she said, well, do you plan on it? I was like, no, ma'am. And so she went through these entire series of questions. And well, you know, you have children to feed. You know, then she brought the babies into it. You know, the babies still have to eat. You
They
know,
have some leverage.
so she began to do that. And so fast forward, you know, she would call every now and then and be like, "You still not working, are you?" You know. And so I just talked to her maybe about a month ago. She said, "So this BYOB thing you're doing, so it really worked now, don't it? I guess it works, right?" You know, like so here we are, 3 years into this, and you know, send her a copy of the book, everything. She's like, so it works? Does it work? You sure you still don't need a job? Just auntie, I got this. I got this.
Well, that's amazing. Ms. Rogers.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, even with Nehemiah coming from where he was, I mean, he had a tremendous amount of responsibility. I mean, he was the king cupbearer, right? So the king, when he showed up, the king's like, look, you know, what's wrong with you, man? Are you trying to set me up? Because he recognized, but that goes about the favor that's on the individuals who are listening to this information. The fact that you're privy to this information, there's a deeper responsibility that you have to be guided through. And Nehemiah knew that he had much more responsibility than what he was currently producing. So for many of us who have not lost our dream, you know, it's all about connecting with the right vehicle and the right voice. And that's really what this movement really represents. And as Nehemiah began to pursue, some kind of way, God always puts people in your path, and it's always up to us to either accept or reject, you know, what he has been sharing with us. But when I look at Nehemiah, he never forgot where he came from, but where he came from wasn't his current existence. I think I need to say that again. He never forgot where he came from. He always had compassion for where he came from, but he didn't allow where he came from to restrict him from being the great person that he was purposed to be. And I think sometimes we're talking about mindset, we're talking about shifting a narrative, then ultimately, no matter what external things are we all experience, no matter what the conditions are, no matter what the challenges are, no matter what the Sanballats and the Tobias in our life say, right? What's on the inside truly is greater than what's happening on the outside. So we can make excuses or we can make progress, but we cannot do both at the same time. We can make excuses or we can make progress. The work still has to be done, even if you may not necessarily have the most favorable hand. That doesn't stop you from doing what you know you've been purposed and called to do. And that's the position that Nehemiah took, because he knew that people needed security, they needed information, and he was still strong enough, even with limited resources, to at least vocalize. And it wasn't until he opened his mouth that the resources was available. So how close are we, for our listening audience? By you just opening your mouth and declaring and decreeing, then automatically God puts you in a position where the resources are necessary. And then he gives you people, if you're not versed in that area, he gives you people to assist you. And then he also gives people to work alongside with you.
Yeah, and it's amazing you said that, because Nehemiah took it a step further. There were those who were helping, said, hey, look, Nehemiah, I got a family, I got to feed them, I got bills to pay, and I got all these loans. We all have mortgaging our property and whatnot to survive. And Nehemiah challenged, I guess, what we would call in that day and time, the banking system.
Yes, he did.
And
yes,
he challenged them and saying that you are you're charging these folk too much interest. And you call it usury. That's what the scripture calls it, usury. I don't know what Miss Dyer's Bible calls it, but they calls it use. We're in chapter 5 now, Miss Dyer. And you know, you got one of the modern Bibles. You don't want to read over there. Got a lot of big words over there. And so
We're not gonna start that today. We're not gonna
and so,
we have guests on the line.
oh, we do?
Yes.
Hey, we got Miss Tanya Anderson. How are you doing? She's there. Yeah.
I'm blessed. How are you doing?
Good. We're glad to have you with us. We're excited. Miss Dyer's been saying so many great things about you, and I'm just honored to have you and Miss Benita in our presence today and as a part of our panel today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you. And now we were talking about Nehemiah 4, as he leads from being a cupbearer to being a contractor with volunteer workers. And so he's going to rebuild the wall using the resources that he got from Xerxes, the king, to rebuild Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. And the scripture in chapter 3 and 4 talks about this process, the places that he started to build and things that he did as it relates to that. And we were talking about the adversarial relationship that it was conducted by those who were there, as Ms. Dyer called them, poverty pimps, who would take advantage of the destruction that those people were living. They were living good because they were able to figure out a way to take advantage of people's hard times. And like it, the same way it is today, when you're broke, you have higher interest rates. You pay more money for loans, you pay more money for the mortgages. And so Nehemiah addresses that with these people who he called was charging usury. They were ridiculous interest rates, so much so that people were losing their property as a result of the loans they had taken out. And this is in chapter 5. And so that's something we experience today. We experience that in the mortgage business. Some of you been in the mortgage business, and you know that everybody don't pay the same thing for a house, even though they're sitting right beside each other, even though they're built by the same builder, the same identical stuff in the houses. Somebody's paying a little more for that house than the other person because when they got out of college, they had student loans, and they got behind on the student loans. Now they got bad credit, and now they can only get secondary loans.
Them credit cards, those credit
cards. Oh yeah, they give you those credit cards while you're in college. I told my daughters they better tear one of them up, but they didn't do it. They didn't listen. And so, you know, I got all those cards when I was in college. You get one every day. And if it wasn't a gas card, it was a Visa or a MasterCard.
Yeah, and I know somebody had a gas card and no car.
Yeah.
Wow. But before we go diving too deep, I want to give her an opportunity, because what we were also talking about is the job being bigger and the expansion of the movement, you know, and kind of relating it to the scripture. So I do want to give her an opportunity, because she's definitely bringing some value to the table, value to the movement. And so just give her an opportunity to say who she is and what she's going to be doing. Because we know we already heard from the trading diva. So.
Awesome. Well, hello, Miss Bradley, the trading diva. This is Tanya Anderson. I am here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I am the pit master, not PIMP, PIP. And so what we're going to be doing, I'm going to be the educator for the basics, because I found that working with people who I assumed knew what to do on a very basic introductory level for trading, they really didn't know what they were doing. And so I have figured out the importance of making sure that we simplify to the nth degree, so that everybody is on the same page and we're all able to elevate
to that next level because we've mastered the basics. So I'll be on tonight for the first time, premiering as the Pit Master. And I'm excited to be a part of this great movement called Be Your Own Bank.
Master P.
Master P.
I like
Yes,
Nah,
ma'am.
nah, nah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. We're certainly happy to have you with us. And uh, when we can duplicate ourselves, that really shows progress. And it's wonderful that we can do that. And that when you guys duplicate yourselves, we're going to a whole nother level. And so we're just thankful that we see God's blessing and God's sending the right people to this movement. Yes, and again, we were talking about usury and educating people. And so what Nehemiah had to do was to educate folk and say, this is not right. This is not the will of God. God has spoke against these kind of loans before, and that God's people should not be participating in this kind of business. And so Nehemiah took them to the priest that they would swear an oath that they would not do this and they would not take the people's property. And so this is why what you're doing is so important. People still need to be educated. There are still people out there who will take advantage and will overcharge and will take people's stuff and leave them homeless. And so we want to just thank you for that, and we want to thank you for your dedication and for all that you're willing to do to educate people all over the world.
You're welcome. I thought you were talking to Miss Dyer, but I forgot. Now I'm an educator, so
Yeah. Well, we're talking to everyone. We're talking to everyone. And
absolutely,
all of
it's
you,
a blessing.
all of you make that sacrifice and that commitment, and are committed to doing just that, to make sure people, if they are taken advantage of, they are willing to taking advantage of, understanding that somebody's taking advantage of. Because there are some folk out there, they know that people are taking advantage of them, but they don't mind.
Mm.
They don't mind. They don't mind. They know that the interest rate is ridiculous. They know that that they're not getting any money, any interest on their money in that bank, and the bank's making all that money off their money, and they're happy. They don't mind that. Now, I don't know if you ever met anybody like that, but they will tell you, well, I always had my. That's what I've always done. I've always been ignorant. And I'll just remain ignorant.
That's that
And
right
some
now
people are,
mentality. That's that no forward thinking mentality. That's that what's happening in my world today mentality.
hmm,
Where it's literally like, okay, so I just have to make it today, with no forward thinking. If you really, really think about when you go back to the onset of this movement, had we had that mentality, I mean, just even think about our visionary, had Mr. Rogers had that mentality, we would not be on this broadcast right now. We just would not be here. And I mean, when I really saw it, and it's like I shared today, that for me it was a conversation with someone, because initially, it was just I was so blown away that the world I lived in and the world I operated in, and nobody tells you this exists at all. And so I was just so blown away. I wanted to learn the skill set. But because of what you just said, someone made a comment, and I'm not going to repeat exactly what they said and how they said it, but it was to the effect of what you said, because it was so generalized about not, I'm going to generalize it about, but they didn't want me to focus on learning a skill set. They didn't want me, you just wanted to get people involved with something. And I cannot operate like that. This is too important. And so our voice, be your own bank, our voice has to be the loudest. Our voice has to smother the individuals that you're talking about, that want to take advantage of people. Our voice has to smother that so people can know that people care about them. People can know that people want them to prosper and to do better. And people can know, and as you've heard from the two ladies, it's three of them, but as you've heard from the two that are on here with us today, I mean, they share that heartbeat. So they share that. So our voice has to be the loudest. And we have families to impact around the globe.
So very true. Mr. Rogers, I see you stirring back there. What you got up on me?
Well, I'm just thinking about when I visualize uh, the joy and the privilege that Nehemiah had, because he was able to galvanize a group of people who had a mind to do the work, who was not afraid of the work. And most importantly, they did not want to be glorified because of the work they were doing. And so they had that energy that the task, the end result was the most important thing. Whether they supplied 1 brick, 2 bricks, or when they came on the wall, because everyone didn't start the project at the same time. And then as he added to that, everyone got the opportunity to be in concert with the end product. And I'm just thinking about the energy when it's ordained of God. Nehemiah was able to do something that was just simply amazing, because he had the right people with the right heart for the right purpose. And then after being in captivity for 70 years, and after that wall being down as long as it had been, Nehemiah was able to galvanize a group of people. And in 52 days, they were able to overcome every obstacle and solidify their purpose in the earth. So process when we make up in our mind to finish the work. And that's really what Nehemiah did. And it doesn't take much more effort than showing up and being available and accepting the fact that we all equally get an opportunity to share in the results of collective working together. And whether you supply 1 brick or 100 bricks, because the end result is the most important thing. And then the joy comes from that strength of being fortified in our hearts and in our minds.
I want to ask you this, Mr. Rogers. Do you notice this, that in chapter 3, when they started rebuilding people's property before they got to the wall, that they mentioned the fact that there was some folk who were referred to as nobles, and the nobles didn't want to get their hands dirty. And so, every now and then we run across folk, and we introduce this process to the nobles and the financial.
Bishop, we're talking to a lot of people right now, but I got you back though. I got you back because I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just saying that they want to skip a step. They don't want to go through the academy. They don't want to learn. They don't want people they consider to be underlings to train and show them stuff. And so they always jump into this middle of the process and get bogged down.
Yes, right. And sometimes, as you said, the noblemen, sometimes our educational prowess, our initials before our name, sometimes that becomes our identity. And then we believe that, and it's powerful what you just said, because Nehemiah was a layman. He didn't come from the liturgical order. He didn't come from the priestly realm. He didn't come from the prophetic schools. He was just simply a man that had a heart to do what God had called him to do. And the noblemen didn't want to receive it from him. And guess what? They ended up missing out because they let their identity be more important than their purpose.
Yeah, and their title. And Miss Anderson, like you wanted to say something. I saw something bubbling up inside of you.
Well, that's what corporate America is all about, in my opinion. You get these titles, but you're still enslaved. You still are not in 100% control of your time or your money. And, we call it our comfort zone sometimes, but it's really a danger zone, because the title isn't you. It's not real. And so when we get bogged down with our degrees and our titles and these temporary jobs, you're right back, where we were 200 years ago.
Ms. Bradley, have you had to deal with any nobles?
As always, I deal with nobles day to day, but there's a way you got to handle these nobles in a nice way. just let them know that you basically gotta let them know who you are. Because some people, on my job, I talk to a lot of, I'm gonna say nobles, where they always feel like their title is better than my title, and therefore they want to make it known. And they feel that I should do whatever they say because they feel that they are above me. And
Mm.
I say feel because they're not. Um, for them, their title is everything to them. Like their job is their life. That's them. That's not me. So I never take it to heart. I never, take it seriously. I just brush it off and chuckle at the same time because I call it the corporate job. My corporate job is not who I am. I do not identify myself as my corporate job, the title that they gave me or they give me. So to me, that's that's beneath me. It really is. But I say it with a smile. You know.
I
Yeah.
let me before we so because just thinking about what she just said, that's why I got commissioned. Um, I enjoyed the military when I was in it, but I was still Tasha. I was not, and so you had individuals that identify with their title. And there were things that I knew, and I knew I could have impact. And, I had people upset with me because even there was one time they weren't following things. And, I received some awards. I received, as a private, I was put in charge, running a section, just all sorts of things. But I literally had people tell me you're private or you're this, and we don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't care what you think, your rank doesn't matter. Your rank, I'm not listening to a private. And so I would always say, and in the military, you just like, yeah, it's just like hood and move out, right? You can't do all that back and forth, and you need to listen to me. And so I didn't have enough rank for my mouth, and so that's what ultimately got me. That's why I got commissioned. That's why I made that transition, because I knew I wanted to have some impact, and I knew what I was doing. And I wanted to have, like, once again, my voice needed to be louder than the ones that didn't. And so I took that same philosophy and that same concept in the BYOB Bank. My voice is going to be louder than the ones that don't. We're going to be the ones that have the impact, because I was passionate about what I was doing and making sure I was doing it right. And it's unfortunate that some people hearts are hardened and their minds are not open. It's just really unfortunate that that's the world we live in. But that's where we come, and we're gonna keep expanding this movement. We're gonna keep shouting. We're gonna keep screaming. And just, I mean, they did it in 52 days. Just imagine what's about to happen.
Well, Jesus said, let's become like in the minds of children, where we are open to learn from anybody. And we have to understand that we can learn from anybody. It doesn't have to be uh, a wealthy person. It doesn't have to be a person who has a 4 or 5 degrees. It doesn't have to be a person who has all this different work experience necessarily. You can learn. The leaders that Jesus used, or that God used from the very beginning. With Moses didn't think he could be. He was ready for that job that God offered him to bring the children out of Israel. David didn't think he was ready to be a king, and so God always used guys who say, "I can't do it," because He wants them to depend on Him, and says for their strength and for their source, and that's where we are. We know that this job is bigger than us, but we're depending on God to provide the resources, to provide the Miss Andersons and Miss Brantleys and the others that He will send with gifts and resources that we don't have, so that we can get this job done. So it's much bigger than us, and we must understand that if we decide to take our ball and go to the house, that the own bank is going to move on anyway, because this is something that's bigger. This is a mission. This is a mission that a vision that God gave Mr. Rogers, and so the vision is bigger than Mr. Rogers, and so it has to move forward. And so God wants to use us in a mighty, mighty, mighty way.
And it's
So,
going to move forward. It's Go ahead, Mr. Rogers.
yeah, I just want to kind of like, definitely want to ask from where we are right now, obviously, and Bishop, I really appreciate what you said. And this is the one thing that keeps me in check as well, because when any of us from a leadership standpoint think that God is not going to move his agenda with or without us, then we've missed the understanding. I think it's in 1 Corinthians 1:29 and 1:30 said that God has no desire to share his glory with no flesh. And that's what I appreciate about the expansion and the addition of these amazing women. And I see them specifically in the place in this industry, which has always been male dominated. But I see we have 3 sets of Deborahs right now, because Deborah obviously did something culturally with the children of Israel during that time frame, that there was the first woman who was in charge of everything and the governance of the people, and she was a warrior. So these 3 women, they're definitely warriors. So I just kind of want to hear from them. Why are they so willing to war and build this wall from a financial perspective, and why it's such a necessity for them to be engaged and take the lead in what they're doing right now, and not asking permission, but be led to lead the way you've been are called and purposed to lead now?
For me, 25 years ago, I was enrolled in a vision that was similar to this, to impact and empower 1,000 people and help them become millionaires so that we could build our own communities, have our own hospitals, live in the same communities, and really just enhance each other's lives and teach our children so that we could create that generational wealth. And somewhere along the line, that got lost. And so when I saw the BYOB movement and heard the vision, at the time, it was to end a role in helping push that forward. That would just be phenomenal. One reason is I have a son who's special needs, and so he'll always need special care. And so I need to put something in place for that community, because I believe it's a hidden community where we have a lot of adults between the ages of 21 and 55 who probably live with a family member, or they become, homeless or imprisoned because they don't have the family that they need in order to make sure they have their medication and diet where it needs to be. So I'm passionate about health and fitness. I'm passionate about mental illness. I'm passionate about those who need support from others who may not have the mental capacity to do it themselves. And I just believe that because we get up in the morning, we're awakened in the morning, we should be contributing and giving back and making a difference so that we can create that generational wealth. So it started for me 25 years ago, and now I'm glad that it's been rebirthed. So thank you so much, Visionary, for putting this in place.
Amen, amen. This is excited about that, that possibility, that vision that we can help people all over the world and have that independence. That's part of another project that we're working on, that where we become independent of needing other folk to help our community. We can help our own community.
Right, absolutely.
And so we're on board with that, and we're excited about that. I'm sorry, but our time has disappeared on us, Miss Dyer. We got about a couple of minutes. Can you do your usual closeout for us in 2 minutes?
I want to give Miss Brantley an opportunity to go ahead and answer that question real quick. We have 2 minutes, so go ahead and just take a moment.
Okay. I'll make it short and sweet. I want to just say that I always wanted to be a part of an organization where I'm able to help others, and not knowing that this was going to be that when I first joined, and it flourished to a great movement to be a part of. So I'm grateful that I'm able to expose as many people about this opportunity, be able to be the face actually of part of BYOB, and able to educate people to learn how to trade, because I feel like everybody needs to be trading. So I am grateful that I'm able to help make an impact towards the mission, to help other people learn this skill set so they can live better off financially and don't have to worry about anything on that capacity. So I just want to say that, you know, I am very blessed. I am happy that I'm a part. And my goal is to just be able to educate and help as many people as I possibly can.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, our listening audience, Rejoice 904, Facebook, YouTube, and everybody who shared us that's out there. I just want you all to just thank you for listening in today. And I'm just excited. So, I know after you heard from these young ladies, you heard from the additions to our Be Your Own Bank movement, the platform. I know you're excited. And make sure you reach out because you want to hear Miss Anderson, Miss Tanya Anderson is premiering tonight. And you want to make sure you are on BYOB Market Talks. That is tonight. Go to our website, beyourownbankmovement.com. I'm going to say that one more time, beyourownbankmovement.com. And go ahead and send us a message. And so make sure you get connected tonight. You do not want to miss it. And you still want to grab a copy of your book. If you've already read it, go on Amazon and leave your review. Let us know because we're here. This book was written for you. This book was written to press forward, to pay it forward, and really help you understand what's been hidden in plain sight so we can remove those financial blinders. We're here to serve. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you this evening. I will see you tonight. Yes, you heard me clearly, tonight. So go to the website, beyourownbankmovement.com. Make sure you send us a message, let us know, and we will definitely get you plugged in. But other than that, we'll be back on here next week. So set your alarms, set your reminders so you can find out what's been hidden in plain sight.